toss the spoon behind your back into the thing. No, don't do that. I turned the stove burner off just because it happens to be a just the thing with the stove that I'm working with. It'll overheat if I don't do that. But ideally for you, when you're cooking with this, you want to maintain your heat at about medium heat. So if it's between 2 and 6, then the midpoint between those two numbers is going to be 4. So just the midpoint and heat on whatever stove you're using. I'm going to turn it back on to medium and go back on to the heat. It's a very gradual process. Like so. And so, this recipe that I found is actually not my own. It's a recipe that I found from one of the chefs, celebrity chefs. He's Gordon Ramsay. And this is one of the recipes that he has publicized, and I've kind of made my own by like adding eggs, or not eggs, adding goat cheese, and then he incorporates a creme fraiche if you're like cooling the eggs down after things are done cooking. So now you can see it's starting to like kind of fold itself over, like making the eggs. So now I'm going to take it off the heat and bring everything together again still. So I really want to get it really nice and fluffy, and I don't want it to like start to fold over on itself yet, because I'm still wanting to give the butter and the cheese a chance to really melt in together. And this is going to force the all of the ingredients to really like melt in together. So I'm going to keep going. And so after I let it sit off of the heat for about 20 seconds or so, it's not really an exact science. It's more of the more you make scrambled eggs, the more it's like, yeah, that's the right consistency. So I'm gonna keep stirring, and that's been off the heat for an adequate time. So I'm gonna bring it back onto the heat. And now it's back on heat, and now things are going to start to thicken up more. And it's going to start to solidify more so. One reason why you always want to keep stirring the solution, or not the solution, the eggs, is because if I just let it sit, then it's going to solidify a lot faster, and the eggs won't be fluffy. They'll be like traditional eggs, like scrambled eggs that aren't really fluffy per se. I mean, you can do that if you want to, but for this recipe, I'm going to make them really fluffy. So you can see right here, these little things right here, those are where it's already starting to fluffen up and solidify more. And so now, it's starting to solidify, I'm going to bring it off the heat and stir this stuff around. We're just delaying the eggs from being able to really clump up and thicken by just bringing it off the heat and putting it on the heat gradually after, like, periodically, effectively. If that makes sense. It's okay if it doesn't make sense. Because I know that, obviously, at all times I'm understood while I'm cooking. So now, I'm actually going to turn this off because it's starting to overheat on the stove again. Again, for you while you're cooking this, maintain the stove at medium heat the whole time, and then just go on the heat and off the heat regularly. So now, I'm going to take the eggs, pull it back onto the heat, and now is when it's going to start to really clump up a lot more. And so if I slow down, you can actually see that. I'll do this to show you what it looks like when it's starting to clump up. You could actually hear it as the spoon is like scraping against the bottom. You can hear it like starting to clump up like that. Yeah, you can see it there now. Okay. I'm getting hungry. Now, some people, when they're making scrambled eggs that are really fluffy, you can throw in some spinach, you can put in some ham when we're not fasting, you can put in like other herbs as well, you can put in some lettuce if you really want to into this. Sometimes what I've done is I've thrown in some bell peppers that I've cut. And so now you can really see that it's starting to thicken up. And so now it's not as easy to stir it, so I'm actually going to stir it a little bit faster to still be able to move everything around. Okay. Yeah, it's almost done. Now, when we get to about this consistency, where it's really starting to thicken up, and it's not really like a liquidish kind of feel anymore, now, because most of the heat is trapped on the bottom of the pan, you can take the temperature and turn the heat off on the stove, because the heat is still down here. Don't do that with your hands, because it's dangerous. Adult supervision is good. And so now, I'm just gradually heating the eggs and making it so everything is at like a good temperature overall, which is why the on heat, off heat process is good. And so now, it's almost there. And there we have it, scrambled eggs fresh from the stove. And so now the piece de resistance is I like to take some like cinnamon bread or some like Italian bread, something, or what's really good is with sourdough bread. That's also really good too. I take some bread, and I like to take some of the scrambled eggs, and I like to transfer it into the bread, have it on top, and then we've got a lovely set of scrambled eggs with bread as well. So, more pluses.